o'clock. Okey doke. So Glenn has asked to have an actual roll call. So I guess we need to do that. Lori DiDonato,
I'm here.
Gillian Budine,
Here.
and I'm Dan, and I'm here. So we're all here, and we have a quorum. And we can proceed to the first order of business, which is approval of the April 14th minutes. Anybody have any thoughts about the April 14th minutes?
I just had a couple little typos to fix.
Take it away.
Page 3 at the bottom where it says Bob's painting came in it says Ulf buildings, so old buildings.
Right.
And then page 4, the second paragraph, litter pickup instead of little pickup.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hopefully there was little pickup.
Yeah.
I sort of thought it was poetic license, but that's
Yeah.
I
And then just
had, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gillian. I had seen a few too, and I emailed them to Anna, so I don't know.
okay.
But you can say you had another.
And then just the last one on the last page under future items, just a space between Glenn and about pest control.
Yeah, I
okay.
think the only other one I might have had was the Conservation Commission rather than committee, because Mary had pointed that out as a.
You guys are being real sticklers here, boy.
Well,
Glad I'm not
Mary,
taking-
I don't,
glad
you got
I'm not
those
taking
emails,
minutes.
Dan?
Okay. Anna, did you get those changes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes with those minor edits.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, we can vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So those are approved unanimously as amended.
I don't know if Barbara is here, but she's not scheduled to be here till 7:15. We wanted her here to help discuss the possibility of returning to in-person meetings.
Before that, we had listed on the agenda the schedule
Oh, the schedule
review.
review. Yes, I neglected to put on there. We're actually, this is a warrant week also. So we have tonight, they're preparing the warrant, which should be available for signing tomorrow. And then our next meeting's next week. And then there's a warrant again the following week.
Okay, so there is no warrant next week.
That's right.
Okay. All right, that's important. And our next meeting is the 4th. And I just wanted to mention about that. Glenn, you may not know this, but my term as chair of the select board ends at the beginning of the next meeting after our town election, which is happening on Monday of that week. So the first order of business for the 5-4 meeting is to be reorganization of the select board, which means electing a new chair.
Okay. And who normally facilitates until you have your new chair? Do you have the coordinator do that or the person?
No, I'm still the
still
chair until there's a new one elected.
Okay, great.
Will we, since we have the 6 o'clock scheduled Swift River discussion, will we have to do it before that?
I don't think we have to do it before that. I think we can do it at the beginning of our regularly scheduled meeting at 7.
Okay.
That sounds okay to everybody.
Yes, sounds good to me.
All right.
Okay.
So we have a warrant that's being prepared tonight and it can be signed tomorrow. Do we have any schedule for that signing?
I'll go in by 8.
Okay. Lori?
I'll probably do later in the afternoon, like after 2.
Okay, I'll do my usual 10 o'clock then.
And Dan, do you normally tell Carolyn after you sign it?
Yeah, any of us should tell Carolyn after 2 people have signed, because that means she can send out the checks. And that's,
Yeah. I know you've been the second person for a while, so I just wanted
Yep,
to double check.
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
Then returning to in-person meetings,
yeah,
any
wanna wait till
thoughts?
Barbara's here? You
Oh,
asked me
yes,
to
we'll
invite
wait till
Barbara, and
Barbara's here.
she's scheduled for 7:15, so
Okay, sorry. Then highway department benefits.
Phil asked for that, I think.
Phil, thoughts on that?
I'm not sure what I have a item that I'm up for later, but I see them on posted for 7:30 or after another. I can do it now if you like.
Sure.
Sure. Well, this is going back to our recent hire with Al, who was a former town employee. And I would say that we're very happy that he's back. And I personally, and I think the crew in general and people that know him are willing to make exceptions for him. So what I'm about to describe is an exception I'm going to ask the board to approve. He, when he left Wendell to try working out in Orange, he had 305 hours of sick time that he lost. He couldn't use more than 3 days when he left. And that was at the time that was difficult for him, but he left and he had to make the choice. But turns out he's got to go in for a hip surgery. And the crew has worked it out. So Rich is using up his vacation time now for the current year, and he'll be back in full swing when Al leaves, but he's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. And he does not have vacation or sick time built up yet. So I guess it's pretty straightforward for me. I'm asking the board if they would approve. And I spoke with Carolyn, by the way, and she said it's just up to you, that she has no issue with it. But I'm asking if the board would approve Al to be able to use his sick time that was on the books when he left previously, but now that he's back in employment with the town in good standing.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. Any other thoughts from the board?
I think I would agree to that.
I
Gillian?
would too. I think the only thing would be if by chance he ended up leaving again soon for another job, that he couldn't then again come back and ask for the same benefit to
That
be
seems
returned.
eminently reasonable to me.
Yeah.
He,
So I guess just to have that on record that,
yeah,
that this
that's
is sort
good.
of
He
a
did
one-time
leave.
situation.
He did leave because the highway crew in Orange is about 3 minutes from his house, and he just felt he had to try it out. It didn't work out at all with the personnel down there, for him anyway. And he's very happy to be back here. I expect him to stay for a long time.
Well, I say, welcome back. Please tell him. And
I will, thank you.
I would move that we approve sick time for his upcoming surgeries with the intention of not letting the same thing repeat itself in the future.
Can I just ask that you slightly amend your motion to
Sure.
state the number of sick hours that you are agreeing to reinstate, just for the
Sure.
record?
Good idea. So I would move that we reinstate. How many hours of sick time is it, Phil?
He's asking for the 4 week, he's going to be out for 4 weeks, so that would be 20 days times 10, so it'll be 200 hours. And I think that's very generous. So we could say not to exceed 200 hours. If he's out, for 6 months, we don't want to just allow that that's going to be covered. I wouldn't think he would expect that either, but that's a good idea to limit it. The specific issue is he's expecting up to 3 to 4 weeks of recovery time where he cannot work following his hip surgery. So that would be 20 days or 200 hours.
And how much sick time had he accumulated when he left?
It was over 300 hours that he left behind.
Right. Okay, so then I would
And I
move.
was going to say, unless you want to reinstate that 300 hours, that's an option too.
Okay, any thoughts on that from the board? Reinstating the full 300?
I'd be fine doing more than the minimum.
Yeah.
Based on there's no guarantee he won't need more sick time, and he did earn it.
Right. Gillian?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, then I would move that we reinstate 300 hours of sick time for the fellow.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Any thoughts? Carolyn, does that sound okay to you?
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. Any other thoughts? And we can vote on that. All in favor of reinstating 300 hours of sick time, say aye.
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 Aye. So that passes unanimously, 300 hours. And good luck on the surgery.
Well, Al's not on here with us, but I will pass that along. And I'm sure the employees for the town appreciate your goodwill.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, then we're moving ahead with town credit cards. I think that's also Carolyn.
It looks like Barbara has joined us. We could go back to the last item of returning to in-person meetings.
Okay, well, Barbara's actually scheduled for 7:15, so let's see if we can quickly do the credit cards with Carolyn.
Well, did you get the proposal that I sent out this afternoon with, it's a proposal for the terms of being able to use the credit card?
Yep,
You see that?
I did, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Okay, I mean, it's really pretty simple. It's anyone who the select board approves to be able to utilize the town credit card is taking responsibility for the use, that they have to contact me ahead of time to get a PO number. They have to submit in a timely fashion the invoices for payment. And if they don't, they can lose their privilege to be able to use it. So we've had town credit cards in the past. And I know when Nancy, during her tenure, it was a nightmare because half the time the charges she'd get the credit card statement. She wouldn't know who made the charges. And then they wouldn't get paid on time. And anyway, so I've never been a real supporter of it, but there's been increasing request and need for it. I recognize that, but I do think that the parameters have to be pretty tight. And
Sure,
people do have to, it's not quite as easy as just an individual filling out a credit card application and, getting a credit card. For a municipality to get it, you have to jump through several more hoops. And so this would be through the bank, the East Hampton Savings Bank, our primary financial institution. And they do require anyone who is using the credit card has to provide their name, their address, their date of birth, their social security number. They have to be willing to provide all of that information and documentation. So if there's, individuals in different departments that don't want to share that information, then they will not be eligible to be able to secure a card through the town.
and you're willing to supervise this use of this card?
I am not willing. I am recognizing that it is a responsibility of my position. Let's put it that way.
Oh, dear. Very well put, Carolyn.
I also was wondering if we could encourage use of companies that maybe we have lines of credit with, if there's catalogs that we have or like Baker Office Supply or something like that,
Well, this would be the use of the town credit card is only when every other option has been investigated and has not panned out. So in other words, if a department we'll just use the library. That's probably the easiest, or the select board or whatever. But if even the highway department, if you are looking to purchase something from a vendor and you're able to secure a line of credit through the vendor, that is your first option.
Right.
But there's some, and Lori had just recently asked me about something that requires a subscription and it has to be paid for by a credit card. And it's not a company where they would generally give a line of credit. So it's only for use in those circumstances. It is not intended to be used where a company is willing to provide the goods, invoice you, and then have it paid through the normal warrant cycle, or that we have established a line of credit through a vendor, and the whatever is being purchased is processed, paid for through that process. This is only for items that those other two payment options are not available. And it's also, in the document that I sent you, the card is only good for the purchase of goods, not services. I don't think that a department should say, okay, we're going to hire, Joe Schmo to fix something and we'll pay him with the credit card. Those kinds of things should be able to be a payment terms should be able to be negotiated, that they are paid for through submitting an invoice and paid on the general warrant cycle. So I do not, that's why I strictly limited it to goods. But again, it's up to you to decide how you want it to be handled.
Could it be used for services like, I think the planning board had used the credit card to buy like computer backup services. That was like one of those things where you had to have a credit card, you couldn't pay out of, I don't know if it could be used for that.
Well, I would say yes, because they probably, but I guess you're using the term services I guess it's a fine line. In my mind, I was thinking of services more as in an individual providing a service, not, and I look at what you're talking about more as a subscription, so to speak. I mean, it's semantics.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
I'll try to come up with a language that makes it clear that what you're talking about is an eligible use. One concern I have about those things, there's so many of them are automatic renewal. And that to me is problematic, because people forget that, oh, it's September, there's an automatic renewal and now we're being charged, and the person that wanted this backup whatever no longer wants it anymore, wants to go with something else, but they forgot to cancel it. And so I don't know, I guess we have to sort of work on how those things are handled.
Yeah, I can work with you on that, Carolyn.
Sounds good.
So Carolyn, you would like us to approve the use of this credit card?
Yes.
Okay. And do we have any discussion about that question? Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
Yes,
Lori?
I'm okay with it. Yep, like Carolyn mentioned, it's one thing that might help us with our upgrading our phone systems. One of the options is only credit card payment.
Okay. Okay, then I would make a motion to support the effort of the town to obtain a credit card for these purposes as stated by our treasurer.
A second.
All those approving, say aye.
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 Aye. That passes unanimously.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you, Carolyn. I see. Oh, I guess Barbara Craddock is here now. Is that right, Barbara?
Yes. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
welcome. I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Nice to see everybody. I have a quick favor to ask you before we talk about the meetings. The Health and Homeland Alert Network, or HON for short. This is the agency that tracks arbovirus cases, and they're the ones that alert us if we have positive cases of West Nile or Triple E. You know, they do the surveillance for that. And they require each town to have a primary contact and a secondary contact. I have been the primary contact since I've been on the board, and Wibby Swedberg has been the second. But this year they want us to be appointed by the town.
Yeah.
So unless someone else wants to do it, I'm asking that you appoint us. Appoint me as the primary and Wibby Swedberg as the secondary contact.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. And the way that we would do that would be that we would ask Glenn to make up some appointment slips
Okay.
for those positions. And then we would sign them at our next document signing.
Okay.
And at that point, as soon as those appointment slips are signed, you could take them to the town clerk and you would be official.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
As far as returning to in-person meetings, right now the COVID picture is pretty quiet. I happen to be talking with our nurse Paul Wanta today, and he hasn't had any reports recently. Again, as I always have to give you the caveat that we don't know most of the cases because most people are testing at home. The thing is that people who are vaccinated and boosted are still getting COVID because we have variants flying around that are very contagious. The good thing is people who are vaccinated and boosted are not getting very sick at all. That's the good part. So keeping in mind the transmission of this, what we would recommend if you want to go back to in-person meetings, and I know you're going to hate to hear this, but we would recommend that you wear masks, open the windows, spread out as much as you can, you know, the regular things that have been going on. So I think if you do it safely, it should be fine.
Okay, Barbara, do you happen to know how the local hospitals are doing in terms of?
I think they're doing fairly well. Part of the problem is that sometimes we get conflicting information. Like today, Dr. Fauci announced that the United States was no longer in a pandemic situation. And then from another source, I'm hearing that hospitalizations are going up. So it's, you know, but I think generally speaking, they're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
So that's my advice.
Okay. Well, my feeling is basically that we have followed the Board of Health recommendations throughout the pandemic.
Yes, you have.
And that we would continue to do that and make these recommendations for public meetings in Wendell. But let's hear what the other board members think about that.
That's fine with me. I am curious if you can envision what it would have to look like to say we don't need masks.
What do things have to look like to not need masks?
Yeah.
Right.
What we need to look like is people not getting COVID.
I guess my thinking, and I'm not arguing in any way, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand.
right.
Is that people are getting COVID, but people are also getting the flu and other diseases that might be in a similar, at a similar level, but we've dealt with those for many years and, you know, haven't had this level. So I guess I'm trying to clarify in my head if people still, if the evidence is showing that COVID right now is still a higher risk for, serious disease than maybe the flu. I know for unvaccinated, it very well may be. So that's a little bit of a separate issue, but so that's my thought, and I guess I might lean towards staying remote over wearing masks, but I'd go with whatever people would want to do.
Okay. Well, I believe that remote meetings, whoever makes these decisions has extended till July 15th, the ability to do that. I mean, the Board of Health, we're staying remote. As to whether the flu or I'm hoping everybody gets a flu shot too. But, it's just, I think you have to evaluate your own risk. If you are not vaccinated and boosted, I would definitely wear a mask. If you have underlying health conditions or you have someone in your family who is at risk, I would wear a mask. I know that when the schools stopped their mask mandate, there was a burst of cases which spread to their entire families of the children who got it. So, my point is, it is very contagious and you just have to act accordingly.
Thank you. Anna has her
Okay.
hand up. I don't know if
Anna?
we.
Be asking people to mask when they enter the building for the election on Monday. We will not turn people away if they refuse to mask, but poll workers will have to wear masks. And we will have somebody, occasionally wiping down a few things, but the level of precaution won't be as strong as it was last year.
Okay, that
thank-
sounds sensible.
I don't know if anybody else had trouble. I couldn't hear Anna.
She was discussing the precautions they're taking on Monday for the election, which will be that workers will be wearing masks. People will be asked to wear masks, but they won't be turned away if they're not wearing a mask. And they'll be wiping down things intermittently.
May I
Did you
make
hear
a
that,
comment? Oh, Dan,
Sure,
may I
go
make a
ahead.
comment? Yeah. I think talking with folks and just being around out in public a lot, it seems to me that the risk is really for people who are not vaccinated and don't have the booster shots. I mean, they are at the high risk.
Mhm.
And I think if people want to dispel with masks, people that are at low risk, there's maybe some resentment about the idea that you have to keep wearing a mask in order to be around people, when in fact you've done everything you can and you are at low risk, or you're willing to accept that low risk. I don't have a solution either. I think that the people that don't want to wear a mask should be at least paid attention to, and perhaps allow it. And maybe the people that are at higher risk, they're the ones that really they're the ones that really benefit from wearing masks. So anyway, that's enough. I don't have an answer to it.
That's fine, and I get it, but there is a risk for everyone because of the transmissibility, but I understand exactly.
I just lost Barbara.
Oh, here she
You're
is.
back.
There we go. I think I disappeared for a minute. But it's how much risk you're willing to accept. And if you get it, hopefully you will do the right thing and you'll contact your people you've been with, and do your isolation and your quarantine so that you're not spreading it around. So I get it. Believe me, I don't like wearing masks either.
It's true. And I think the thing that we don't always appreciate is that even if you don't get sick, even if you have been vaccinated, you can still carry the disease. You can still spread it. So
Right.
So the masks are important for all of us. I agree.
Gillian?
I live in my daily work life of mask optional at the schools, at the public schools right now. Currently I'm choosing to mask most of the time, unless I'm in a space that I'm pretty much by myself. And I feel like, we probably will be moving more to that in our future of it sort of being mask optional. So for those who feel safer being masked are masked, and those who are ready to not wear masks are not masked. But you know, it is tricky for people who need to have that additional safety precaution. It's, some of us are still masking, but
Yeah.
regardless of vaccination status. I'm okay with having meetings in person or online, either way. And I feel like if we have it in person, if I feel like I need to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. But it sort of, it varies. I was just in Montana. Very few people wearing masks there.
Same as Colorado.
Came home on an airplane with about my mom and I and just a couple other people were the only ones wearing masks on a full plane.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
changing.
Wow.
Okay, but
Okay.
I think the consensus is that we're sticking with the recommendation from the Board of Health for now for town buildings, that we're recommending that people wear masks and keep the windows open.
Yeah, ventilation helps a lot.
Do we have a
Yep,
consensus
that's fine.
on that
That sounds
from the
good.
board?
Yeah.
Laurie gave me a thumbs up. Gillian, that sounds okay to you? Okay, good. Okay, Barbara, we're with you, and
Okay, thanks.
thanks for all your help. Carry
You're
on.
welcome. Bye.
Hi, Barbara.
So just to be clear, it sounds like we got recommendations from Barbara on how to most safely have in-person meetings. So those are the guidelines that we should be promoting with all the boards and committees in the town. And then there's also the decision on the table for the select board about whether you want to continue meeting virtually or want to meet in person with masks on and windows open.
Right, and I think I heard Gillian say that she's fine either way, and did I miss something that you said on that, Laurie? Did you express an opinion?
I said I might prefer staying remote rather than in person with masks.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that's
I
sort
will
of
do
my-
whatever people want.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you, Laurie. So let's say for the next meeting, we stay remote and talk about it again.
When do you want to revisit it? I can put it on the agenda and for next meeting or the
Well,
one
We
after
can
that.
revisit
Or
it next time.
what's
We
that?
can revisit it next time.
Okay, next week.
I was just going to make a recommendation that maybe we revisit it at the end of May, at our last meeting in May.
Okay, that sounds okay to me.
Our next meeting doesn't feel very far away.
It isn't. It isn't. It's next week. So we will revisit it at the meeting near the end of May.
Great.
All right. Well, we are moving ahead here. It's got a long list, but the ARPA project management. Glenn, I brought this up because you had raised it as an issue about the red tape, especially involved with ARPA, and the amount of time it takes. But I was hoping that Doug would be here for that.
I
so that-
invited him on Monday and it turned
8
out he couldn't be here, but he did encourage someone from the finance committee to come.
Yeah, this is Thomas. I'm here. Doug's on a flight right now, I believe.
Oh, thanks for coming, Tom.
No
Good to
problem.
have you here. We're just discussing sort of the apportionment of time for the town coordinator and whether or not there's time for ARPA coordination in the town coordinator schedule. And the only point I wanted to raise, Glenn, is that I think mainly most of the big issues about ARPA have been solved, I believe. I think we know that the select board can authorize spending the money because towns across the Commonwealth are doing that. And I think we also know a lot of good ways we could spend it. And the FinCom has a list now of capital projects, important capital projects that actually I think total more than the total ARPA money. because it involves landfill capping and a fire truck and a lot of other things. So we have a list that is being formed, and we sort of have a plan to form a list and then present it to a special town meeting in the fall, just to get input from the town on going ahead with that money. So it doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of red tape associated with ARPA, and that maybe you would be able to fit the red tape that does exist into your current schedule.
Yeah, no, I wasn't proposing like an increase in hours for me to work on it. I just was aware that when you all were setting up the coordinator position, part of the idea was for additional hours to be the assistant town clerk, and I'm not doing that role. And I was just kind of connecting it in a way in my mind to the same kind of conversation that Phil was having about the infrastructure projects. Like when you take on more work, it increases the load of coordination and project management. And I think it's, I actually anticipate that there will continue to be a fair amount of kind of breaking through red tape connected to ARPA, not just with the state and local fiscal recovery funds, but with other things. For example, Senator Comerford is asking for more time, asking me to meet with someone about earmarks and things like that. And then there's the reporting, like figuring out how to navigate their reporting system. So there are, I'm just saying that connected with any big grant that you have, there's some level of admin.
Sure.
Just wondered if you all wanted to think about that aspect of it.
Gillian?
And I think I remember too, I may not phrase it exactly right, but there's also the possibility that some admin fees can be charged to the grant. That's an allowable expense. And I remember when I was looking at some of this grant funds a little closer before, the documentation, the record keeping, the reporting is pretty extensive. Regardless of how much money you have, it's like almost the same. If you have a whole lot of money or if you have a small amount of money, there's these reporting requirements that you have to do on, I believe it's a quarterly basis. And the record keeping. And I think if we want to be really careful that we don't get ourselves into a situation where we have to pay back money because we didn't document it correctly or didn't report on it correctly, that we want to make sure that some time is reserved to really make sure that it's done right. So I'm in support of making sure that there is some time designated to make sure that these funds are spent correctly spent correctly, managed correctly, I guess is the more proper term, over the next, the length of whenever we have these funds and the reporting is done. And I think then it should be brought up again about, whether, if the current time is sufficient, if there should be a quarterly stipend or something that's charged for administration for reporting, and the extra time that takes, some kind of consideration, because I was concerned about that when we first got these funds, that I just see the workload in numerous places and the amount of emails flying around of consultants who were offering to do that for us. So because there's money there to be made, because it's quite a task.
Can I just ask, Glenn, to clarify, you said something about not needing more hours, but I'm curious if that is sort of where this could go, that are you able to do more hours if this is something that we decide we could pay for through ARPA or other means?
I could, I'm not sure. I could look at that. It might not be right away that I could do that if you were interested in that. Kind of have made other commitments around consulting for other projects. So I guess my question was though, and this is something I actually don't know, maybe Tom can help us out with, but if my salary was originally considered 24 hours for kind of like the baseline workload. And I'm not doing the 4 hours as the assistant town clerk. Where is that 4 hours? Because my hours haven't decreased. Where is that 4 hours coming from? Because that could potentially come from this ARPA, although it would obviously diminish what you could spend it from in other places. Because if I look back at, like, for example, going to that MMA conference, I mean, that was like a half-day trip. And the best thing I got out of that was like a couple-hour meeting about the ARPA funds. And then I've attended webinars and things to learn how to do the reporting, anyway, it all adds up. So I just was curious about how that money is kind of getting allocated for this fiscal year, given that I'm not doing the assistant town clerk hours.
What?
I think that was just an accidental interjection from our guest, but yeah, anyway, so I don't know, Thomas, if you have any information on that.
I guess I don't really for that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, Doug is the expert on the way the town coordinator hours are structured. So maybe we should postpone this discussion until we can talk with Doug.
Okay, great.
But we've gotten some good thoughts about it already. Thank you, Gillian and Laurie. So you know where people are thinking, and I don't think we need to resolve the question right now, do we? Wait for Doug.
Yep.
Gillian?
Just one more thought, that if we sort of make things, in the next discussion, that one possibility was that we could make things just a little more clear that those 4 hours were spent on that grant work, record keeping, reporting, those kinds of requirements. And then when that workload reduced at some point, then we renegotiate what that time is being used for. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah,
we can think about that and have it, but I just wanted it sort of in people's thoughts, as well as the possibility of being able to attribute some of it to the grant. I don't think it would total a whole lot.
Okay. Posting for select board clerk position. Was there a question about that? I think we're in desperate need of a select board clerk. I've been beating the bushes. I haven't come up with anything yet, but I'm still working on it. Was there a question about the posting for it?
I just wanted I couldn't find the latest copy that we had of that posting. And I just wanted to sort of share it widely again, put it on Nextdoor, on the listserv, on Facebook, on emails, a few people, but I wanted to make sure I had the right information.
I think, did I email it to you after you asked
I
me
didn't find
to?
it, but I could have missed it.
I'll make sure to email it out to everybody again.
Thanks, Laurie.
And I can put it on the listserv for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Pest control at town buildings.
Yeah, this is something Eric has brought up. It's a concern at the town offices, at the town hall, and perhaps at other places as well, that we have ants, we have mouse droppings. I saw a mouse run across the select board's office floor the other day. And he was recommending that we get some kind of contract, even if it's twice a year, kind of pest control, and then have a relationship with them that you could call them if more was needed. But old buildings, and in particular, the town hall where there's food sometimes. And I guess there were also like, he took a picture of, I don't remember what it was, whether it was flies or something had kind of gotten up into the sun and died and then fallen back down. There's a whole little pool of dead bugs. So anyway, that's the recommendation from Eric.
Well, when you say pest control, you're talking about pesticides
I mean, I don't know
or
what the
mousetraps?
techniques or methods are. I imagine pesticide might be part of it, but
Jillian?
We have a company that's actually in Wendell that uses more natural treatments. Now, while they are still harmful to animals, you know, certain animals, the pests, they don't necessarily use chemical pesticides. And so I didn't know if that was something that we could reach out to them and have a conversation with them about the treatment of, I think the primary buildings were town hall, town offices, and the library definitely has a problem. And I don't know about the senior center or other locations, but and I am concerned too about the town hall because of all the food that's kept there for Good Neighbors.
Right.
the
Well,
kitchen.
the
Gillian, I
kitchen.
think if you could reach out to the Wendell people, that would be great, and get a proposal from them. I'd like to see what it is. I'm pretty firmly opposed to using pesticides in any town buildings because of the effects on humans
Mhm.
and animals that maybe you don't want to hurt. So I appreciate looking into the alternatives, and I think mousetraps go a long way, and we could try that. I'll set some in the select board office if nobody has any objection to that. But I think that's one way to tamp down the population without exposing people to chemicals.
It might be worth asking Eric if he's willing to do anything with mousetraps too. Because I do
Yeah.
remember checking on this recently. I'm not sure if it's the same people you're, somebody local, I can't remember if it's exactly the same people we've used in the past that do ants in a very non-pesticide way. But these people for mice, they were using the poison bait, which is what's troublesome for, birds of prey. So I don't think we necessarily want to do that. And
I know
I
this-
just remember talking to him, and he's like, "Really, the only thing you can do is set mousetraps or use this bait." So
Yeah. Well, let's check. Gillian can check on the people in Wendell that do it and see what the proposal would be, and we can recommend mousetraps to people. And I think probably we should contact Good Neighbors and talk to them about the issue and see what they're thinking about it. They must be aware of it and what their concept of a remediation might be. Maybe they've got some thoughts on it. So,
The company in Wendell is called Zero Tolerance Pest Control. If anybody wants to look at it.
but you would check with them, Gillian, on a proposal for this?
I can check in with them. I might need help from Glenn if they want to take a look at the buildings during the week or something when I'm at work.
sure.
Yeah,
happy
and
to.
I'm happy to show people the buildings too. If Glenn isn't available.
Okay.
And
And
this
oh, go ahead. Is this something we need more than one quote for?
Well, it depends on the price. Anything under 10,000, probably not, but it's always good to get more than one if you can. And I'm thinking more about a proposal, so to see exactly how they would approach it
Mhm.
before we.
We
and
could
the
ask
price.
Eric. We could ask Eric, the company that the school uses, because the school has really strict rules around what is used in the school. They can't use pesticides.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Good.
given me the name of Minuteman Pest Control, and I think he knew of another more local person as well, who might be the same group, Gillian, I'm not sure.
Mhm. All right, so Glenn and I can work on that.
Okay, and I'd be willing to work on the Good Neighbors angle and contact them and see what they're thinking.
Okay. Lori,
So
do you know if there's
yeah.
any rules around the kitchen in terms of
We just talked about it briefly. I assume no pesticides would be a pretty, I don't remember actually what, if we got to any real conclusions, but I'm gonna say no pesticides is a good way to go with that.
We ready for the next agenda item?
I think we are the Audubon Scholarship.
Yeah, this may be a briefer discussion, but than originally. The contact from Audubon reached out to me because I guess he had emailed the old town coordinator email address, which went to the person in New Salem. And so, I mean, not New Salem.
Yes,
New
New
Salem?
Salem.
Was New Salem,
Yeah.
yeah. And so she was wondering why there aren't scholarships for New Salem folks, given that some of the land is in New Salem as well. I guess some of it's in Orange. And then I learned that the scholarships are basically a payment in lieu of taxes kind of arrangement because the vast majority of the land is in Wendell. And I just honestly, there has been so many pots spinning that I just wrote to both of them and said, would it be okay if we thought about this for next year? Like, I just didn't want to get into it with them, but I'm happy to take whatever direction you all have for me on it, but it seems very complex to try to think about. I don't know why Audubon wouldn't maybe just make another scholarship available for Orange and for New Salem if they wanted to do that, versus like figuring out some way to apportion the 2 scholarships per year that they currently have. It just seemed very complicated to me. So
What was the issue?
well, that essentially that Wendell residents get access to these scholarships, but New Salem and Orange don't, even though the land does touch on other towns besides Wendell. So I think that was like what about us? Can we get a scholarship too? Kind of a feeling.
Gillian?
My opinion is that's not your deal to deal with,
Yeah.
and that we have an agreement to get the scholarships for Wendell, and they can talk to Audubon about scholarships for their towns. But I would still love to be able to offer the scholarships to Wendell and make that happen before it gets too late. So
Oh, yeah.
I think you can say, you're welcome to take that conversation up with them, but with Audubon, I think the message needs to be, let's move ahead with getting the information out so that people can apply for scholarships for camps.
Great.
Right.
Yeah.
For Wendell.
100%.
It was the Audubon person who reached out to me, and he kind of was like, had gotten an email from New Salem saying, what about us, essentially, and he sent it back saying, well, if you guys agree to do this, then you can, we can change it. And I think you're right, going back to them and saying, this is your scholarship, we negotiated this with you, why don't you have a separate negotiation with Orange and New Salem? Makes a lot of sense. So thanks.
They might be confused too about how things were broken out, but I actually think we should ask for more from them.
Yeah, it's not an adequate payment for the amount of land that they're using.
No.
But it's better than nothing. And that was the original reason that we accepted the deal, was that it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And, that they're not legally required because they're a nonprofit to give us a payment in lieu of taxes like the state is. So if they were throwing us a crumb and we agreed to take the crumb, but let's hold on to it.
The school also receives an opportunity for educators to come to the school, Audubon educators to come to the school. So that's a piece of it. But I know recently, a couple years ago, people from school, the classrooms went to an Audubon sanctuary, and they said that was by far more beneficial. They really appreciated that opportunity to have that experience, and would love to advocate for that to happen more often. But so maybe we could invite Audubon to come to a meeting and have a discussion with us about it.
Yeah. one would you like?
Do
Need
you agree,
somebody-
Dan and Lori? I don't know.
No harm. No harm in doing that.
Wait for a light meeting if we can predict
Right.
when that might ever be.
I don't feel like it has to happen for this, like right now, but maybe we could put it on the docket to have a conversation with them, but move ahead with the camper scholarship for this year.
Great, will do.
Right.
Sounds good. Thank you for that very much.
Okay, assessors recruitment. I'm not quite sure what that is either. We do need assessors.
We need assessors. And I feel like we need to figure out a way to, I don't know, I had that idea of having like a job fair, town job fair.
Right, and there is also the alternative of hiring a company to be our assessors, not have Wendell people doing it.
But that will
Anybody-
take time.
It'll
I
take
think we,
time. But has anybody given any thought to that, if they would think that's a good idea?
I think it might be fine. Definitely, we should learn about it. And I think that we might have mentioned inviting Kelly and or probably not Anna at this point, but Kelly from or somebody from RRG to the meeting to tell us what that would look like and how much. See if they can give us a cost.
Yeah,
Can I say
So that-
something? Whoops.
please, Carolyn.
I would just like to interject that if the town is looking to go to, again, more outside people to be operating town government, that there be a requirement that there be a physical presence in town for taxpayers to be able to go and talk to the people that are representing these different departments and not just have to hide behind emails and telephone calls, because I'm sure you have had, residents contact you about how disgruntled they are that it's very difficult to have any kind of interaction with the assessing department. And if you put the whole kit and caboodle out to an outside company that is not located anywhere near Wendell, that situation is going to, in my opinion, get worse rather than better.
Yeah, you're probably right. Good point.
But we have
Make
to
sure
have
when you
people.
get those complaints, you ask them to volunteer to be the assessors too.
So I have a suggestion. Could we make sure to have a list, and Anna might need to listen to this too. I know you're already listening, Anna, but a list of open positions posted, if we're allowed to, at the elections, at town meeting. And I think we should post it again on the website, on the listserv, on Nextdoor. I'll share it.
Yeah, that
Just
sounds like
as
a
much
good
as we
idea.
can.
I think a sandwich board at the election might be a good idea. Something bigger than a piece of paper.
No, that's a good idea. And there is a sign. I ordered a sign, like a big standing sign that I can keep up to date with the open positions that we can put in front of the offices. And I will post it again, what the open positions are before. I'll do it on Saturday, but I can do it tomorrow and Saturday if that's better, just to inundate people's emails with
Great.
election items.
Great, thank you.
And I can make big colorful posters if you want, just splash them all over town, put them at the library and the store if you really want.
Help
Sure.
wanted.
Yeah,
I
that'd
did
be
have
great.
An interesting proposal from a resident about having a slight reduction in your taxes if you serve on a town board.
Oh,
I wonder if
How
we can
about-
do that legally.
how about a small stipend if you
Right.
serve on a town board?
That might be
I
better.
know there's other towns have, at least for seniors, maybe senior volunteer tax breaks, I think.
Oh,
I feel like Greenville might have done that.
Well, then you do have an issue there for people that don't own property but live in town.
Right.
So that's why I suggested maybe a stipend and adding to the stipends that a lot of these committees get. We can't pay the FinCom anything. That's against the law. But all the other boards could have stipends and they could be increased.
Thomas, will
Something.
you make note of that to have a discussion with the FinCom?
I will let
Thomas.
you know.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
The other thing too is I keep thinking I'm going to do it, and as long as it's okay that I do it when I have the opportunity to, but even go sitting outside of Good Neighbors or some other outside of the library and just having a help wanted sign there, the list of open positions, and saying if you're in, like, just inundating people as much as we can.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think, there are people who are not on the listserv who aren't going to check the website and who they don't know. So we have to try to catch them.
Yep. Well, I think we've sort of taken care of the appointed assessors process, because especially with Carolyn's warning there, maybe we need to think a little bit more about appointed versus paid or whatever before we invite the paid assessors to come to a meeting to discuss the process.
I think it would still be good information to know, like what the cost is and what the process is, because my understanding is it's actually quite a complicated process. We have to get permission from the state to do it.
Yeah.
And the other issue is, what trouble are we going to run into without a board of assessors as of May 5th, 6th?
Okay. Third,
May
Third.
Tuesday.
Well, I have heard that there are some people who are putting their name in as write-ins.
For the assessors?
But not, these are folks who, agreed to step in temporarily and need to continue their work for the particular,
That's
planning issue
board.
there.
That's not the assessor. Sorry, Glenn.
Oh, sorry. Who
Yeah,
was that?
Anna.
Who was
Yeah,
that?
there's some people who have done that for Anna mentioned that.
Oh, right. For planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I haven't heard of any assessors. Sorry.
So Gillian, would you like to have the paid assessor people come in soon to a meeting to discuss this option?
I think we have to keep moving forward in terms of figuring out some solutions and knowing what our options are if we can't get anybody to join the Board of Assessors. But we also have to find out what can't happen if we don't have a Board of Assessors, like setting the tax rate, I believe, is an issue, right? So
Absolutely.
So what then happens?
Good question. So Glenn, I think that means we need to try to get some people from the assessing company to join us for a meeting along with an assessor, if there is one.
Sure. You mean what? One of the current assessors, you mean?
Right.
Martha.
Okay. Yep. And I can also do a little research and find out what happens if we don't have anything in place. I can see if I can get an answer
I'm
to
sure
that
there is
question.
a proviso for that. I'm sure towns have done it.
And Glenn, I believe Martha knows the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
So
Great.
it might be just a conversation with her.
Okay. And if she's here, she can tell us all. Okay. Anything else on assessors?
Just one addition, because I talked with Martha at one point a little bit about it. And one of the other things too is that they have to have a certain amount of training before they can actually be able to be an official assessor. So I think it's like level 1 and level 2 training. I don't even know what it is. has to happen before they can be an assessor and it counts.
Yep, that's right. Need
So if
training.
somebody's elected, they're not necessarily,
They can't necessarily
Mm.
vote the next week to,
okay.
Anything further on that? The administrative consent order was signed and sent in, I believe. I'm not
It
sure New
was.
Salem has signed it.
I've heard that they are going to.
Yeah. And we will be meeting with them next week to discuss at 6 o'clock.
Did you have a conversation with Deirdre? Is there a name
I
Deirdre?
did.
Deirdre.
Dee-
Oh, you did?
Dee Dee, other
You did.
Deirdre or Dee Dee. Yes, I did have a conversation with her and let her know that we had signed the order, which she told me that she knew that and she had signed it and sent it back to us. So it's fully executed. And she was happy to hear that we agreed that we need to work on this quickly. And she seemed to be satisfied with the report that the Tigan Bond was being called in for consultation, and then a plan would be quickly submitted to them. So I think she's okay for now. But as she said, the clock is ticking. So
So I
we're
don't know.
waiting to
Sorry, I
hear.
did-
Waiting to
Go
hear
ahead.
from Tim about the Tigan Bond, and we'll presumably hear something next week on that.
So I did talk to Tim briefly, because he had sent the email saying that his recommendation is to go with the filtration plan because it's already there. And when I talked to him, even, I don't think they've even talked with Time Bond yet. So I think his concern is that we don't have enough time to come up with something totally new when we have such a hard time just getting meetings with people and, you know, that kind of thing without the resources and somebody who's really dedicated to putting something together. He thought that it might not be realistic to come up with something, an alternative. Particularly, one of the questions I asked him was where there could be a new well on this particular property, and I think his understanding is there is nowhere, so it would have to be on a neighbor's property, and that would be an even more significant task in getting that, you know, worked out and engineered, and or you know, making an engineering plan and all that. So anyway, that was sort of where he's coming from, and just thought I'd let you all know.
But he's wanting to scrap his original plan of sending the camera down to see if it's just a break in the current well.
I think his thought is that even doing that, unless they find that it is just a crack and that a simple fix will fix it, which I'm not even sure that is true. It's not a guaranteed fix. I think the idea, and I don't know if Dee Dee made this clear from what he said, that this, whatever we come up with has to be a guaranteed fix so that we can say for sure that within a certain, we have a plan to make sure that there will be good water, you know, within a certain time frame. And so unfortunately, the things that we've been wanting to do are a little bit of a, you know, we'll look at this, and then if, you know, depending on what we find, then we can go in this direction. But if not, we have to go in another direction. So it's, none of it is guaranteed. One of the thoughts when we were discussing is, I don't see any reason not to go ahead with the camera work, because it seems like something we should do no matter what. And then we could, you know, plan for this filtration system as our fallback, but continue, you know, investigating other options at the same time. If we feel like we have the money and resources, and that's a way to go. So I definitely would like to continue to do the camera work. I still haven't gotten the answer of why it didn't happen, because it should have been on track to happen before we got the ACO.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure why it didn't.
Yeah, well, that's definitely my inclination, is to go with the camera work, and especially based on all of Jim Slavis's thinking on this, which I fully support. And I also think that I did pretty carefully explain to Dee Dee at the DEP this plan of first trying to find out if there's a crack in the current well, and taking a little bit of time to do that. And she seemed perfectly accepting of that proposal. So I don't think there's a hard line that this all has to be accomplished next week, or that we need a permanent fixed plan available immediately. I think their DEP, as far as I can tell, is perfectly happy to wait as long as we're conscientious and we really are going ahead and have a plan, and we're not stalling. I think they're happy to take a sensible approach. Gillian?
Can we have DEP come to a meeting? Like, so that we're not doing the, like, you know, I feel like there's so many pieces in the air right now, and sort of unsure about,
Well,
because I felt like that ACO really was saying, like, no, you have like 60 days to get this finalized.
Well, 60 days is
whatever the
plenty of
timeline.
time. 60 days is plenty of time to send the camera down there. And Dee Dee was agreeable to that.
But I
So
think I heard
based
the
on-
consultant saying that he's uncomfortable doing that.
Well, I thought he said that he was first going to consult with Tig and Bond to get a plan together. And I think my feeling is that he's uncomfortable. He became uncomfortable as soon as he heard there was an ACO, which he's never dealt with before.
Right.
So presumably he's going to go to Tig and Bond, and they're going to tell him that what you need to do is meet with DEP and come up with a plan for sending the camera down there that gets their approval. And
So my understanding is the camera is a good.
That's where the meeting with DEP has to happen. Is if this person, Tim, is our engineer, then Tim has to meet with DEP and make a proposal, and then it will get approved quickly, I think.
So from when I talked to Tim, the camera step is a fine step, but it's not a final answer to the problem, because it depends on what we find.
Sure.
And then the option of whether a plastic, I don't know, just fixing it with a quick plastic fix or something, or having to drill a new well. Those are two very, very different things. And if we had to engineer and plan for drilling a new well that was going to be on a neighbor's property and all that, that might not be able to get done in 60 days.
Right.
So
But
that's why.
In order to know if which one is possible, we need to send the camera down, and sending the camera down will not take a lot of time. And then we have a quick answer to that question.
Yeah, I want to send the camera down. But I want to be realistic that we might at the same time, depending on our resources and time, and the people who can put time into this. I think we might have to also consider
Plan
this
B.
filtration thing. Yeah, the plan B. And with regards to that, I think we really need to have Jim talk to whoever is designing this, like a real, like there's so many, that's another thing where there's so many questions about, well, whether it'll work or not, but it's all through email or through middlemen. And I just feel like it would be really helpful to have Jim really talking to these people so we can get to the bottom of his concerns.
Well, we do have a meeting set up for next week at 6. And,
Right.
And the engineer is going to be there, and I think Jim will be there. And
Okay, good.
hopefully that discussion can happen there.
Yeah, I don't know if the people who design the filtration will be there. Maybe I can see if that's possible.
But Tim will be there, right?
Right. I'm not Yes, I'm not sure if his depth of understanding would be enough. But we'll see. Maybe Chris. Maybe I'll, at the very least, I'll have Chris. So Tim is the health agent. Chris is the engineer.
Oh,
See if
right.
he's looked carefully at the that proposal and plan.
Well, Chris will be at the meeting also, right?
Yes, he will. Right.
Okay.
But, yeah. So hopefully, I'll make sure that he'll be able to speak to that as much as he can.
Good. So we can put that on hold until next week?
Can I
Yes.
ask a question about the meeting next week? Do you want that posted as a separate meeting from 6 to 7 with your regular meeting starting at 7? Or do you want just one posting and then have times kind of like for the start of the normal business starting at 7 p.m.?
I think one posting is fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Gillian, I think this is you to follow up hearing about policing.
Do we want to just set a date?
Yeah,
Do we have the final agreement that we can share? I probably have it somewhere, if people ask for it.
we do have the final agreement, right?
Yeah.
And I guess we should make sure that, sorry, our chief can be there.
Yeah. So what time frame are you thinking of?
In terms of when,
Yeah,
we did like an hour last time, right? Do we want to do it ahead of a meeting, or do we want to do it? I think that's what we did last time. Felt like it worked fairly well because then we could just go right into our meeting.
okay.
We should be aware. I'm remembering now at the last one, there were some people who wanted to be able to speak without the chief there. So I don't know if, and I feel like we might have said that we would focus a future one on maybe more of that. But it might have, people might have might not be as worried about it. But just to keep that in mind, if we want to consider.
What if we had the chief there for the first half hour and then the second half hour, and he would say goodbye after the first half hour and follow up discussion afterwards?
Let's flip it, because that's what happened last time, and then it was
Okay.
hard to make it, to have him leave because too many
Well,
people.
we could have the chief on call and start the meeting without him. And then if there was a demand for him, he would be ready and able to jump in if we asked him. How's that?
Okay.
I'm sure he'd be happy to do that. But do you want to
Special
come up with a
notice.
tentative date, Julian?
The problem I have is I don't have our meeting dates right in front of me.
I can help with that.
Okay. Do we want to, do we want to do it after the town meeting? As long as we have a date set after the annual town meeting, just so it doesn't feel as busy?
Right, I think that would be good.
Yeah. We have a 5th Wednesday at the end of June. I don't know if our 5th meetings will be less busy. Our 5th Wednesday meeting, or the 1st of July. Well, that's a holiday.
Yeah, let's do the 29th, if that sounds okay. At 6.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
And we can still have it remotely at that point. So it would, if we wanted to, have the hearing remote, and that way the chief we could just call him and he could join that way.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good.
29th of
June.
June.
29th of June. Okay.
And I think we could say it's just a follow-up hearing
Yep.
on policing and our, what are we calling the agreement?
The agreement with Leverett to provide police services for the town. And we should do the usual listserv and website publicity on that hearing, so everybody knows about it.
Okay.
Are there any other special like notice requirements for hearings?
I don't really think it's a hearing. I think we called it a forum. It's really just public input, right? It's not, I mean, we're
Yeah,
not doing it for a regulatory purpose.
we're not doing it as a regular hearing because in part, we're not making a concrete decision.
Right.
Okay, yeah, request
Could we
for
call it
public
something
comment or
different
something like
than hearing? Just call it a discussion?
Forum.
Yeah, public
Forum.
input session or forum, yeah.
Okay, newsletter support.
Well,
Do you
I
need-
did. I was hoping to have the newsletter out, so this wouldn't even have to be an agenda item, but it is. So I guess the need for support is there. I did reach out to, is it Colby Corbin?
Corey?
Corey or
Corey,
Corwin.
yeah. And Corey's not interested in assisting anymore, apparently. So they did share some, a template and so on. But so I think it's just kind of back to when the coordinator can pull off putting it together, maybe finding a buddy to kind of help out and kind of keep the project going on track, because it was meant to go out in early April and it's not gone out. So
Anna, do you mind putting that on the list of help wanted? A newsletter volunteer?
Thanks for working on that, Glenn, and good luck.
thank you. You ready for the next item?
Glenn, I'm just going to offer, as of next week, I'll have a little bit of time because I'll be done grant writing. If I can help with some finish up, let me know.
Okay, great. You could maybe do a proofread or something, or
Okay.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh.
I will say that I had a moment last week where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's that I'm getting better at the job, like learning how to do things more efficiently or clear through a backlog or something, but I just had a little bit more breathing room than I've had. So maybe sometime I'll open up soon to do that.
That's great to hear, Glenn. That's
Well,
fantastic.
I know, right? I was like, what is this?
I know it takes some time. I know how complicated the job is. So that's really good to hear.
Thanks.
Thank
I'm
you.
enjoying it a lot. Actually, I think that this is almost my 3-month anniversary with you all. So
Cool.
I know.
Well, great.
you're
You made
almost
it
stuck.
this far.
You're almost stuck with me.
Time is flying.
If you made it this far, you're good for a long time.
Okay, good. Next is the Mosquito Plan. Gillian was looking for someone to take some initiative on this, I think.
Yeah, and I've gotten 0 responses from all the parties I sent it to. I was trying to pull it up in terms of when the due date is, but it's in May.
The due date for,
Our town mosquito plan, if we want to opt out of spraying,
I thought we were denied the ability to opt out
we get another chance to try.
by presenting an alternate plan.
So they have a new plan application this year, and where we can apply online again. And they make it a little bit more, I haven't even looked at the application, but supposedly they make it a little bit more clear about the have-tos And because what was unclear last year is that when I look at the data, or if you go online and look at the data, to me, it looks like Wendell is a very low risk community, but not according to Department of Public Health. It's a like medium risk. So that I think is why, I'm making an assumption because they didn't tell us. I think that's why we were denied. But we fall into this catchment area that contains Worcester. Like it's that community that has a higher risk level. So, but if we want to apply, and I think there's people in the community who would like us to, we need somebody to help fill out the application. And I could help, but I was just, because I'm in grant writing mode, I was a little overwhelmed.
And Barbara
Okay.
was one of the people who, in the Board of Health, that,
Who I sent it to.
yeah. It is not possible to just sort of copy and paste from either last year or from another town who actually succeeded.
It's individual to each community. So it's tricky.
Well, looking at the, I did look at the application a little bit. It looks like the part that stuck out to me, I didn't review it thoroughly, but you do have to kind of submit a communication plan. Like, how are you going to communicate to your residents about it all?
Which we did spell that out last year.
Yeah.
In the
And we did-
application.
Yeah. So maybe we do have something to work with from last year. I can try to work on it.
Well,
There's no one
also,
else stepping
Julian, I
forward,
know a
but-
person who might be able to help with that. I think I know a volunteer person that might be able to help, so I'll
Okay.
check on that.
Okay, thank you. For some reason, I can't even find the email right now.
I got it. And
Okay.
I can put the link in the chat. Well, I don't know if the link will work or not. It's a very long, weird link. That's the link to the application, which is due May 27th. So we got 1 month exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, maybe I can put some more.
I'll try to get you some help.
Thanks.
Okay. Annual town meeting planning outreach.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I don't think anything has gone out to all the boards and committees telling them the date. And then, save the date on the lister. So I just wanted to make sure we had that in our heads and who would do what. I think now's the time.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
um,
So Glenn, can you send a little announcement out to all the boards and committees?
Absolutely.
Date of the annual, and please submit any ideas for warrant articles.
Yep.
and with a clear deadline, which we only need to post it a week, but we might have wanted a 2-week deadline. Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time putting my fingers on it at the moment, but I did kind of write out a schedule for all that. So you're right. I think it's coming right up.
And I'm okay putting something quick on the lister if that's helpful.
That would be
Oh,
helpful.
here it
Emma.
is. Yeah. I had May 4th request articles. It's funny, my warrant articles to Glenn by May 14th, and then the select board could approve the warrant articles by May 18th, posted on the 21st. And then it would be on June 4th. So that's 2 weeks.
Good.
That was acting up in a weird way.
And the sign that you got, Anna, will that work for the town meeting too? Is it one where you can change everything? Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, so
Right,
in the
good.
schedule, Glenn, you knew that the annual only needs 1 week of posting.
That's right. Yeah, but yeah, 1 week, but you asked to try to have it done 2 weeks in advance, just so we weren't stressing. But so
Yeah.
we'll have wiggle room with this with the schedule if we need it.
Yeah.
This works. Put in the chat the schedule, if that works for you all.
Okay, well, we're getting down there. Any unanticipated items?
I do have a couple.
Okay,
One is that our kitchen coordinator resigned, but we have hired a new one quickly. So that's good.
good.
So Sarah Wilson will need to be appointed as the new kitchen coordinator, and she was on the committee, so I don't know if there's anything formal that needs to happen to make sure she's off the committee, because we don't want her to do both. Does anybody else know that?
Well, she would just need to resign from her committee post
Okay,
And
is that just an email to
to the town clerk.
To
Anna?
Anna,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And okay, yeah, so can you put an appointment slip for that too, Glenn, along with the others? The
Yes.
town hall kitchen coordinator, Sarah Wilson. I can email it to you if you want.
Absolutely.
And then I just thought, I did want to check in on the annual report, Glenn. Is that another thing you might need help with? Are
Really?
you feeling good about that?
Not feeling good about it at all. Good question.
Do you know how many people have sent in their, like, do you have a feel for if there's still people who haven't sent in their
On my list for a while to compare what I have with, I guess with a prior report, so I can see all the reports that need to be submitted, and then, so I haven't done that, but gotten a lot of. That should should move to the top of the list soon.
And in general, you have, from Nancy, you're comfortable with sort of the steps that need to happen in terms of the printing and all that stuff. I assume you
not-
have all that.
I mean, I know I can call her and ask her, but I haven't yet. Yeah.
All right, so I just want to make sure everyone was aware and maybe we can help if need be.
And I know that sometimes there's a backup at the printers with those because every town is doing it about the same time. So it's
Okay.
something you have to sort of give some room for.
Right. Like submit it around the end of April would probably be the best time to submit it. Like yesterday.
I don't know the timeline, but
Well, I think the usual timeline is that we have it ready for the annual, right?
Yeah.
Right.
June 4th. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck with that, Glenn.
Thank you.
If the board can help you in any way with that, just let us know.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will do.
And then my last thing is just what we're going to do when Anna can't take minutes. If we need to make a plan for that. And I've been working on Liam, but I don't know how we would do it if I could get him willing to sit in on a meeting or two. Like, could we figure out a way to pay him? I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we
Okay.
can pay him the same way we were paying him before, and we have a budget for it under select board.
Okay.
Hourly now, so he would have to keep track of his hours, submit them to Caroline after the select board had signed off on them.
Okay. So I don't know. He's definitely resistant, but
Yeah.
I might be breaking him a little bit.
Well, good luck. I hope you can do it. He does a great job. You can, maybe that would bribe him to let him know that
Yeah,
he's
I'll make
gotta-
sure he knows.
you can write a recommendation to college for him or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah.
If no one
Uh,
does come through, I'm just kind of seeing that as something I will make happen. The minutes happen.
Great.
Write the
That is
minutes,
what
in other words,
Nancy
be the
used to
minute
do.
taker. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
does default to me if no one else can do it.
Fortunately, it does. And Nancy did do it for a number of times, but she didn't like it. And I know why. So
Yeah, the recording helps, in terms of juggling the roles, because there
Yeah.
is the opportunity to go back. I want to continue recording your meetings, even if you do all meet in person, even if it's just an audio recording for that.
that's a good idea.
That's right. We did that too before with Liam.
Okay, Gillian, did you have any unanticipated thoughts? No. she
No,
says.
I had another one. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I don't have this on my list. So I had an email from Ashley Penna, who is our multi-board clerk and planning board clerk. And she is feeling she's gotten way over flooded because the planning board has huge number of meetings, open space is increasing their meetings, and the finance committee is increasing their meetings. And she doesn't want to continue to do all of those. And she is she doesn't really want to continue with the FinCom. And she says that it's really hard, and she almost has a hard time making their meetings anyway, because they have to do so many meetings in such a short period of time, and they schedule them sort of on Saturdays and all that. So I wasn't sure again what the process would be, but she's just hoping that her position could take the FinCom off of her duties. So maybe it's good Thomas is here. She said that Doug often will take them when she can't make, or I guess maybe it hasn't really happened that often, but it sounded like it's not a big a deal when she can't make it. And I don't know how much you guys feel you need her. Maybe Anna wants to say something. No?
But I would say you should do everything you can to keep Ashley as a minute taker, because her minutes are beautiful and very punctual, and she does a great job.
She wants to do it. She really wants to stay on with the planning board, open space, and she's energy committee too. And I've tried with the select board also, and she doesn't want to do that. But she just wants to cut out the FinCom because it's just too much for her. And I just wanted to put that out there and see how the FinCom feels, and then if what we would do to make it happen if we could.
Yeah, she does do a good job, but Doug, and I know last time she wasn't able to make it, Doug took notes, and I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. We need to take her on notes.
Oh,
Well, that would be great, Tom, if you guys could possibly do that. I know that when I was on the FinCom, we always had a FinCom member keeping the minutes. And minutes on the FinCom are not as hard as they are on some other committees. We would appreciate it if FinCom could do that, and it would solve that one problem.
Perfect. I'll let them know.
Great,
thank
thanks.
you so much. And I wasn't sure, I mean, right now, I think the meetings she has, I mean, it's a salaried position that was supposed to be for 3 committees. So now she wants to drop a committee, and I think she's over, based on the meetings they're having now, that would make, I think it would still make sense, the pay that she's getting, but I don't know in the future if we'd want to reconsider that. Or
Aren't you saying she is still doing 3 committees?
Well, the planning board, so she is doing planning board, but that's a separate position. It's the planning board clerk that is paid from the planning board budget. So the multi-board clerk is what we are overseeing, and it's the energy, open space, and the FinCom has been.
I wonder if at some point if we need to move that to a also an hourly instead of a stipend. If it
Mm.
makes it tricky in terms of saying, well, it's for 3 committees, but then we're dropping it down, then how do we determine, essentially it then changes
Would we be able to just
that rate.
take that pay out of the, sorry, I think you said the planning board budget has their own line, maybe take that out and, continue to pay the same.
That one is an hourly, so that's the main difference there.
Okay,
I mean, I think we could continue as is until the next, until the end of the fiscal year, and maybe at that point, or, in planning for the end of the fiscal year, we can think about if we want to change it.
And maybe make it more clear that it's like a minimum of so many meetings and a maximum of so many meetings, so that then
Right,
there's
yeah.
this, at least there's some data to be like, if she's doing 30 more meetings a year, then, then we can, because people started doing, more meetings or something,
Mm.
we can adjust what that stipend is. Because I don't
Yeah.
even know what it was historically when it was set up, how many meetings.
Yeah, I think it was probably just a monthly meeting. Well, the FinCom is always, you don't really know. It's going to be very different throughout. But for energy and open space, once a month is really what it normally is. So. All right, well, I'll tell her that she's okay to stop on the FinCom and that we'll sort of just reevaluate the hourly and how it's going to work for the next year and let her know.
Yeah, and we could get the FinCom to think about also how to structure that, whether they think it's best to make it hourly or stipend.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry for the last minute.
Don't worry, that's quite all right. And Gillian had said that she didn't have any additional unanticipated thoughts, and I don't. So we have a schedule for signing the warrant tomorrow, and I think we're pretty much all set to go, which would be a record time for all these Roman numerals to be taken care of.
And we'll have an agenda draft for Friday?
Yep.
Okay. Because we have a meeting next week.
That's right. You do.
Not that far away.
No, it's not.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
Thomas, too.
Yeah.
no problem. Thank you guys.
Oh yeah, Tom, thank you very much for coming. I think we can adjourn at 8:43. All in favor of adjourning at 8:43, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. Thanks to everybody for coming. See you next
Good
week.
night.
Dan, can you
Right.
stay?